Okay, here are my post-fight thoughts for Paul Smith versus Arthur Abraham 2 or Arthur Abraham versus Paul Smith 2. In the first fight, it was debatable. A lot of people believed that Paul Smith won the fight. I was one of those that believed Paul Smith had done enough to win the fight. Other people said that Arthur Abraham did enough to win the fight. I wouldn't argue with them either. But the second fight, having seen the first fight, having Smith fought the first fight as well as he did the first fight, I thought, well, the second fight, Smith would have added to what he did the third, so it would have been the 13th round. Smith would have continued doing what he was doing in the 13th round onwards. And I don't know what strategy that Joe Gallagher and Smith had been working on since the last fight and trying to get the rematch, but it seemed to me after the first round that Smith fought completely the wrong fight. It was as if Smith became Arthur Abraham in the first fight and Arthur Abraham became Smith in the second for the second fight. Which is what I mean. What I mean to say is this: when I did the pre-fight prediction for this fight, I said, for you to beat Arthur Abraham, you've got to hit him when he puts his hands up, and then when his hands come down, be out of range. Smith, for whatever reason, first of all, didn't use this jab and put Abraham to the ropes, which is what he needs to do. Put Abraham to the ropes and whack him with body shots and be out of the way. No, this time Smith decided to stand in the center of the ring, sometimes voluntarily taking himself to the ropes and allowing Abraham to flurry. When you do things like that, the points start to stack up, and you're getting hit, you're getting hurt, and Abraham throwing those heavy punches to the body is going to slow you down. And throughout all the exchanges, Smith would land the odd good body shot, and but he was always fighting the uphill battle. He was always fighting against the tide, whereas I would have thought with his game plan, knowing what Arthur Abraham can and can't do in the first fight, as a pundit and analyst may say, you'd think the second time round you'd have a better strategy. But it seems, from what I saw, that Arthur Abraham looked bigger in the fight. He looked stronger in the fight. He seemed to look more motivated in the fight. It must be something with TV deals. What is it with TV deals and fighters suddenly coming out of their shell? Vladimir Klitschko himself as well came out of his shell to devastating effect against Kubrat Pulev, and Arthur Abraham seems to have rolled back the clock against Paul Smith. A lot of people believe Paul Smith was not an elite or world level fighter. I think he's gone 12 rounds twice with Arthur Abraham, but in this second fight, I think that Arthur Abraham showed the gulf in class between the two rounds, bullying Smith and really capitalizing on the more strength and the more power and the physically better fighter in Arthur Abraham, capitalizing that. Thoughts about the fight? I was shocked when Gallagher was in the corner saying that, Smith was in the fight. Smith was nowhere in the fight, and from round one. And I don't know why Gallagher did not have a word. Joe Gallagher did not have a word with Smith and say to Smith, look, mate, get off the ropes, keep off the ropes, keep Arthur Abraham with his back against the ropes, keep him with his hand. Once his hands are up like this, he can't hurt you. Once you've got this guy from here winging these shots out of you, you're in trouble. You need to be able to get yourself out of that, use your jab, get him back against the ropes and keep him on the ropes. Keep Arthur Abraham on the ropes from round 1 to round 12. And then you're going to stand in the center of the ring and try and box with Arthur Abraham. You can't win that fight. So, to me, to cut a very long story short, Smith fought the wrong tactics. What Abraham did to Smith is what Smith should have done to Abraham, is what I'm basically saying. So, and it goes back to my point that it's all well and good being a trainer and having a really good reputable record against guys who are in 80-20 fights or 90-10 fights. Of course, you can look a great trainer, but your real test to being a great trainer, for me, is when you can turn a fight around or say something of inspiration, or you can talk strategy and put in a strategy that's going to make your fighter fight better. You've been in the fight the first time with a guy, you should be able to say you were more confident second time round and you see the improvements. Actually, I think Smith looked better in the first fight than he did the second fight. So take what you will from it. I'm actually disappointed in the way Smith went about the fight the second time round. He did not fight to a game plan of any sense to me, because he certainly wasn't a better fighter on the outside than Abraham. And Abraham, I think, is made he's less effective or not effective when he's on the back foot and his back is against the ropes, because his hands are up here. And if a guy's got his hands up here, he can't hit you and hurt you. So I'm surprised they did not work on that strategy. In fact, Smith made Arthur Abraham look like Roy Jones Jr. at times in terms of the way Arthur Abraham's throwing in punches. Arthur Abraham's never been quick on his feet, and he's never been quick with his hands, to be honest. But tonight, Smith made him look like I said, flashes of Roy Jones Jr. The way Abraham was throwing punches. And yeah, Smith got himself buckled a few times. I think if I'd got myself buckled the first time, I would say to myself, you know what? I don't need to be on these ropes, and I don't need to be hold these other punches and then trying to have a brawl with a guy. So Smith threw some good punches in the fight. He threw some good body shots in the fight. But really, if you want to give Smith the last round and maybe, I think, 1 round, probably the most Smith won is 2 rounds out of 12. So it was a dominant performance by the world champion, and there should be no cause for a rematch now. And yeah, that's it, really. Paul Smith really generally doesn't have much to smile about, and I guess he'll have even less to smile about now after this performance. Don't know where he goes from here. Potential domestic fight with Chris Eubank Jr. That may be interesting. That may be a good fight to see. I'd like to see that fight, actually. Smith v Eubank Jr. Good fight. Eubank Jr. is on the way up. Smith on his way out. I tell you a fight I wouldn't mind seeing as well as Arthur Abraham against Callum Smith. I think that'd be a great fight. I think it'd be a great fight. Is Callum Smith ready? Who knows? But let me know your thoughts. I'm out. Take care.